Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A federal judge has struck down Arkansas's first-in-the-nation ban on gender-affirming care for transgender youth. Judge James Moody, Jr. ruled the ban to be unconstitutional because it discriminates against transgender people and violates the rights of doctors. In his decision, Moody wrote, quote, "Rather than protecting children or safeguarding medical ethics, the evidence showed the prohibited medical care improves the mental health and well-being of patients, and that by prohibiting it, the state undermined the interests it claims to be advancing," unquote. One of the plaintiffs who sued Arkansas over the ban was a 17-year-old trans student named Dylan Brandt, who responded to the ruling by saying, quote, "Transgender kids across the country are having their own futures threatened by laws like this one, and it's up to all of us to speak out, fight back, and give them hope," unquote. On Tuesday night, Israeli settlers raided 10 Palestinian villages in the occupied West Bank, setting fire to homes and vehicles. The attacks came hours after 2 Palestinian gunmen shot dead 4 Israelis and injured 4 others near a Jewish settlement. The alleged gunmen were later shot dead. The militant group Hamas said the attack was a response to Israel's massive air and ground raid on the Jenin refugee camp on Monday, during which Israel deployed U.S.-made Apache helicopter gunships for the first time in the West Bank in nearly 2 decades. The death toll from Israel's raid on the refugee camp reached 7 today, following the death of a 15-year-old Palestinian girl named Sadil Nagnia, who was shot by Israeli gunfire. Palestinians living in Jenin said they're now afraid to let their children go outside. This is Hadil Jas, whose husband was shot dead by Israeli forces Monday.
There's no safe place in the camp. At any minute, there could be a raid. We are afraid for our children to go outside. If I want to go to the market, I will be in a hurry to be back home so I can feel safe with my children at home.
In Honduras, at least 41 women were killed Tuesday after an attack by gang members inside a women's prison in the town of Tamara. Reports say the women had repeatedly complained about receiving threats from gangs inside the prison but were ignored. Some of the women were burned to death, others were stabbed and shot. Relatives of the victims are demanding justice.
We want to know who are alive because they're human beings. They are our family. We want to see them and know how they are. If all of the authorities are quiet, what are we doing here? Staying silent as well? No, we want answers.
Honduran President Xiomara Castro, the first female president of Honduras, has fired Honduras' security minister, accusing prison authorities of aiding gang members in the massacre. Federal police in Brazil have revealed a top aide to former right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro had gathered documents outlining plans to stage a possible military coup last year after Bolsonaro was defeated by Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Brazilian police found the planning documents on the phone of Lieutenant Colonel Mauro Cid, who was arrested last month for his role in falsifying Bolsonaro's COVID-19 vaccination records. The Pentagon has announced accounting errors have freed up an additional $6.2 billion to spend on arms for Ukraine. Last month, the Pentagon said it had made a $3 billion accounting error, but officials now say the error is twice as large due to the overestimation of the value of military aid packages. In news from Sudan, heavy fighting has resumed in the capital Khartoum after a 72-hour ceasefire expired. On Tuesday, the Sudanese military accused the Rapid Support Forces of bombing the country's intelligence headquarters. Meanwhile, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, says over 500,000 people have now fled Sudan since fighting began 2 months ago.
Today, right on World Refugee Day, we passed this horrible mark of 500,000 refugees from Sudan. And we know why. The fighting is really generating this huge exodus, and if there is not going to be a sustainable ceasefire and then peace, I don't think that we will see an end to it. People will continue to be displaced inside or go outside. In fact, in addition to the 500,000, there are almost 2 million that have moved inside the country because they have nowhere else to go.
Amnesty International is urging countries across the Americas to stop their racist treatment of Haitian asylum seekers as thousands continue to flee Haiti due to worsening gang violence, extreme poverty, and a deteriorating political crisis. The group denounced the mass deportations, torture, detention, and violence faced by Haitians in the United States, Mexico, the Dominican Republic, Chile, and other nations where Haitians pass through in their search for protection. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in New York Tuesday to begin a 4-day state visit. On Thursday, President Biden will hold a formal state dinner for Modi hours after he addresses a joint session of Congress. The Biden administration is attempting to strengthen ties to India as part of an effort to counter China's growing power in the Indo-Pacific region. Modi is head of the Hindu nationalist BJP party. He was once banned from the United States on charges he did not intervene in a massacre against Muslims in 2002 in the Indian state of Gujarat that he headed. At least 3 Democratic lawmakers plan to boycott Modi's address to Congress: Representatives Jamie Raskin, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib. In a post on social media, Tlaib wrote, quote, "It's shameful that Modi has been given a platform at our nation's capital. His long history of human rights abuses, anti-democratic actions, targeting Muslims and religious minorities, and censoring journalists is unacceptable," she said. Hunter Biden, the son of the president, has reached a deal with federal prosecutors to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges as part of a deal that allow him to avoid facing prosecution on a separate gun charge. The deal caps a multi-year investigation by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, who is appointed by Donald Trump, but allowed to stay in his role by President Biden. House Republicans have described the deal as a slap on the wrist and have vowed to continue to investigate Hunter Biden and his overseas business ventures. A disciplinary hearing has begun in California for attorney John Eastman, who advised Donald Trump on ways to overturn the 2020 election. At the time, Eastman was the dean of the Chapman University Law School in Southern California. Eastman faces 11 disciplinary charges in the State Bar Court of California. The process could lead to his disbarment. The federal judge overseeing Donald Trump's trial for mishandling classified documents has set an initial trial date of August 14th, 1 week before the first Republican presidential debate. U.S. District Court Judge Aileen Cannon set the date on Tuesday, but many legal experts expect the trial will be delayed. Cannon's a Trump-appointed judge who served on the federal bench for less than 3 years. According to the New York Times, she's only overseen 4 short criminal trials in her time on the bench. In labor news, Senator Bernie Sanders has launched a Senate investigation into the dangerous working conditions at Amazon warehouses. In a letter to Amazon Chief Executive Officer Andy Jassy, Sanders wrote, quote, "Amazon is one of the most valuable companies in the world, worth $1.3 trillion, and its founder, Jeff Bezos, is one of the richest men in the world, worth nearly $150 billion. Amazon should be one of the safest places in America to work, not one of the most dangerous," Sanders said. ProPublica has revealed Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito took an undisclosed luxury fishing vacation with Republican mega-donor Paul Singer in 2008 and then later ruled in Singer's favor in several cases. According to ProPublica, the billionaire hedge fund manager gave Alito a free ride on his luxury jet to Alaska for a trip where one participant bragged about drinking $1,000 bottles of wine. Alito never reported the all-expenses-paid trip on disclosure forms. Since the trip, Paul Singer's hedge fund came before the Supreme Court at least 10 times, and Alito never recused himself. ProPublica reports Alito's trip was organized by Leonard Leo of the Federalist Society, who's played a key role in pushing the court to the right. Hours prior to the publication of ProPublica's report, Alito published a column in the Wall Street Journal headlined, "ProPublica Misleads Its Readers." In the piece, Justice Alito acknowledged taking the trip but denied violating any ethics rules. Heat records continue to be shattered in Texas and Mexico as a massive heat dome remains over the region. In San Angelo, Texas, temperatures reached 114 degrees Fahrenheit Tuesday, breaking the old record by 3 degrees. In Laredo, temperatures hit 115 degrees Monday, according to the organization Climate Central. Climate change is making the extreme heat 5 times as likely to occur in parts of Texas. On this first day of summer, meteorologists are taking part in the 6th annual Show Your Stripes Day to raise awareness about the link between weather and the climate crisis. A massive search effort continues in the Atlantic Ocean after a tourist submersible went missing during a trip to explore the wreck of the Titanic, which sits over 12,000 feet below sea level. 5 passengers are on board, including the founder of OceanGate Expeditions, which organized the trip. For years, the company ignored warnings by its own staff and experts that the company's deep-water missions could lead to a catastrophe because the submarine did not meet industry standards. Tickets for the mission reportedly cost $250,000 each. Passengers aboard the ship include 2 billionaires, Hamish Harding from Britain and Shahzada Dawood from Pakistan, who is on board with his son. And many are questioning the massive media coverage of the Titanic adventurers in light of the lack of attention paid to the thousands of migrants lost at sea as they attempt to reach Europe, fleeing persecution, poverty, and the impacts of the climate crisis in their home countries. This comes as authorities in Greece have recovered 3 more bodies of men who drowned last week in one of the deadliest migrant shipwrecks in years. The official death toll is 81, but the New York Times reports as many as 700 migrants may have died when their overcrowded ships sank off the coast of Greece. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.